Welcome to IndieEye Film Awards for August of 2022.
What's up, y'all?
Dre has just informed me that she'd prefer to do this raw.
That's not true.
Well, let's go.
You are now listening to the IndieEye Film Awards podcast.
Welcome to IndieEye Film Awards. I'm Matt.
And I'm Dre.
And we are here to discuss August of 2022 submissions and winners for the IndieEye Film Awards event thing film festival.
Yes, sir.
We are a mix of several things right now.
We're something.
How are you doing, Dre?
I'm good.
Now, normally this is where I would ask you about what we're watching, but we cannot even get into that because this show is by the way, I'm trying not to edit this episode just like I did in July, so this could get ugly, folks. But this show is bursting at the seams. We have so much to talk about. I think August of 2022 was absolutely our biggest month of submissions and quality. In fact, I want everyone to take a moment and have a round of applause for yourselves. Everyone who submitted to IndieEye for August. Dre, shall we? Congratulations, everybody, because there were 0 not selected submissions this month. All solid quality submissions. Now, we got some problems we got to talk about, but everything was just...
It had something.
Yeah. There was nothing that was horrific.
Like we've
Tough
seen.
choices. Well, yeah, and this is probably the strongest collection of honorable mentions, which could be winners in any given month.
Any different month. Ugh.
So this will probably be a long podcast. Stay tuned. If we don't talk about your submission right away, you might be in honorable mentions. You might be in the subcategories, which we'll get to later. And I have so much to say about all the things.
But we're going to keep it concise.
I cannot promise that. You know who didn't keep it concise?
Yes, I do.
Dante and I, and that's Dante Albane. He's a director. He directed The Alpines, Polaroid. He's been an IndieEye alum. There's a bonus episode from December where I interview Dante and we talk about his filmmaking and things like that. Well, Dante has become quite a friend of mine, and he's an associate of ours. And Dante and I did a giant 3.5-hour bonus episode of IndieEye Film Awards. It is called the Bad Review Special. And if you're listening to this episode without having listened to the Bad Review Special, I highly recommend you check that out. Now, the Bad Review Special was born from a situation that came up in July where our reviewer, who the audience would know as DJ Ford, did a written review for a film that was submitted. Now, the filmmakers of this particular film did not like the review. They had some questions. They reached out. There was an exchange.
Yes. A very professional exchange.
A what?
A very professional exchange.
Well, except for my sarcasm, yes, which they answered with their own, which I appreciate. But what I did was, I wanted to speak with Dante and do a bonus episode where we talked about how we as filmmakers should respond to negative feedback or bad reviews about our film projects.
That's part of it.
Absolutely part of it. And it was also helpful that a former IndieEye submitter and winner, Calvin T. Shepard, who submitted Safe House 1618, won a bunch of awards for that. He also had happened to post last month on Instagram a screenshot of some bad reviews of his film, and his caption for that was all part of the job.
That's right.
And we referenced that in the Bad Review Special bonus episode. But what happens in this episode is that Dante and I start drinking and we start talking, and we get down and dirty about some really blunt opinions on things, I've more thoroughly set up the premise of this exchange that happened between myself and these other filmmakers. And then I read you the emails that we trade.
You did?
Absolutely.
Wow, I didn't know you went that far.
Now we change the names of the film and we don't mention the filmmakers. Of course. They're not.
Because it's not.
It
really isn't relevant.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, it's not at all. And it's not fair to them to put out an episode where we're
just bagging
calling them out. Yeah, I don't want to do that. But I did want to let others know how, kind of give them an example. Don't respond this way. You can ask questions, but it was very challenging to try to help these filmmakers understand exactly what IndieEye is, how we go about our process. So we try to explain that in the Bad Review special. We do read the emails. The original review that the filmmakers asked to be removed from the IndieEye website is read, but of course we changed the names. So you don't know the name of the film or the filmmakers, but you will read the written review that they didn't like, or you will hear us read the written review that they did not like. You will hear me read the email exchange that happened. And then you will hear some very rough opinions from both Dante and I about this particular film. But the best part is that you will hear Dante and I talk trash about our own feature films. Dante actually reads several, hilarious reviews about his feature film. And it's just the way, you got to let these things roll off your back. Yeah. So I say it all in 3.5 hours on the Bad Review special. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. It's in the podcast feed. It's on our YouTube channel. And that's highly recommended. Now, also, some housekeeping here. There's going to be a new service available, not necessarily with IndieEye, but we're going to shine a light on something very cool in October. So I guess for our September episode, we will be very detailed and announce that,
good time.
IndieEye listeners, you have this available. And it's something that filmmakers should want to take advantage of. It is very cool, and it's somebody really dedicating a lot of their time to try to help fellow filmmakers.
Yeah.
So follow us on Instagram for news on that. You should be following us on Instagram. How dare you not do that? And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Sometimes I'm thinking about dropping more things on there. And a little shout out to my homegirl, Emma Halloran, who joined me for my Take 22, a media production podcast. That's Take 22, a media production podcast hosted by Matt. And one of the actors from my feature film, Madison Baker, was here, joined me for a discussion. We had this discussion back in December, I believe. And it's just, Take 22 is my last living priority of anything. So I get to it when I can. Yeah. But the last couple of episodes are interviews with actors who were involved in the film. And we just kind of talk about indie filmmaking and the process of making that. So highly recommend that. That's Take 22, a media production podcast. All right. I think that's all I want to say for now. We've got some more things to say at the end of the episode, but we're going to dive right into August of 2022. And we are impressed. I'm starting with something that was submitted as a web series to us. This is called Art of the Hustle, and it's also labeled as the pilot for this web series. This is directed by Kenny Tiller, but he did everything, really. I mean, he's writing, he's producing, he's in it, because he's the man. He's also my new best friend. He doesn't know this yet, but
it will happen.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this watch. And the synopsis is this. Episode 1 follows Michael Robertson, a college basketball star who goes undrafted for his social beliefs. After soliciting financial help, he finds himself knee-deep in the underworld of crime, where he slowly becomes everything he fought against. Now, this runs about 20 minutes long, and it is an artistic blend of gritty run-and-gun and well-composed cinematography. Like, there were shots where I went, wow, you really thought this out and went out of your way for camera placement. Kenny's really thinking, I assume Kenny's in charge of the camera in this. I did not see who specifically was, but the thought that's put into where to put the camera is huge in this web series. Now, what I found interesting, I'm going to read you a little bit about Kenny here. Kenny Tiller is an award-winning filmmaker, actor, and cartoonist.
He's multi-passionate.
That speaks to my
soul. It does, really.
I grew up as a cartoonist.
That is true. Gosh, I forgot about that part of your life.
He born in 1988, the year the Dodgers won the series.
He's a youngin'.
He's a Louisiana-born and Atlanta-based creative. Tiller recently made his directorial debut with The Art of the Hustle pilot, winning the Hollywood Gold Award for Best. Well, I messed that up.
No best, just web TV series.
Yeah, it just says web TV series. Sorry, there are no edits. He's also been featured in films such as These Mean Streets, The Deal, and Slice. He has an in-depth desire to create compelling and award-winning narratives that focus on raising awareness about social issues and mental health. Now, normally, when I hear raising issues about social awareness and mental health, I want to die, because that's pretty much... okay, 90's too high. Let's say that's probably 60% of what IndieEye receives.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, social awareness and mental illness, I get it. Listen, I'm socially aware and I have mental health problems. So you're just preaching to the choir here. But no, this is really done well, because there's a kind of a twist at the end of this. And Kenny, I'm talking to you. There's a reveal towards the end that I thought, that's a fantastic point. Thank you for pointing that out. These things do matter, and why is this person doing these things? Mm-hmm. And now, like, me and Kenny are the only ones we know who know what we're talking about here. But I just thought that was brilliant. So, I mean, I'm completely convinced this is a man who loves cinema and storytelling and works hard to create and improve. Yeah,
and the characters have depth to them. They mean something. They interact with each other really well.
And also, you noticed when Art of the Hustle appeared as a title.
Yes.
Got you.
My graphic designer eye was like, oh, thank you for doing an actual titling, like, with a very cool look. It was just something we normally don't see, because people kind of like the titling is the last thing they do, and it usually sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and just to sound not incredibly in love and biased here,
but
there are some Foley issues.
Yeah.
There's particularly in the first sequence, Kenny, there's a slide rack of a pistol, you're racking the slide of the pistol, and it's obviously a generic sound effect that's dropped on the timeline and not massaged into the audio mix, and that kind of pulled me out. But there's little things like that throughout. But considering the type of production this is, it's not that big a deal. I'm just trying to nitpick something so that I sound slightly even on this. But Kenny Tiller, Art of the Hustle, wins our best web series of August of 2022.
Yay!
All right, moving on. We received a music video from Brazil, and I'm assuming Portuguese, it's Surto, S-U-R-T-O, but they have it listed as Outbreak.
Okay, yeah.
And this was directed by Vitor Pazin and Daniel Torres. And this is interesting because it's like a short film, but it is a music video. So there is a piece of music, and it's very heavy on guitar. It's simple, but it's heavy on guitar, very beautiful. It's about 4 minutes long, but it shows this story. Here's a synopsis for it. After an infection decimates humanity, A woman seeks to survive and move on while dealing with what's left behind. So it's basically, it's a zombie type of scenario, but it follows this, it shows you what's going on in the very small world of the girl who stars in the music video. And it's a slow burn. Like I said, it's simple guitars. It's not some complicated music piece, but just a ton of thought was put in to the production design and the silent storytelling of this music video. And I thought it was great. So Outbreak is our best music video of August of 2022.
Yay!
Moving on. There's some dead space for you for those listening. Moving on, we're going to go to documentary short. And there's so many I could talk about, but I'm just going to pick one here for the podcast. And I'm going to read the synopsis first. In light of recent revelations on the UFO topic, this short documentary shares firsthand experiences with beings, crafts, and more. Zach and Misty are a couple who have been deeply impacted by things not of this world. They agreed to be interviewed with the intention of helping other experiencers feel less alone. They shared some incredible stories. And they did. This is called Experiencer, the Zachary Humway story, directed by Walt Peterson and Blair Harris. Thoroughly enjoyed this topic. I'm a huge fan of the whole UAP, UFO situation. I'm always interested in that for the sake of just sparking the imagination and possibilities. I love thinking about that kind of stuff. And I appreciate these directors for pursuing this subject and telling the story. That said, folks, the audio in this doc short is trash. Absolute trash. The mic placement that you have on the talent is, filmmaker to filmmaker, is embarrassing. It's like one of them, it's like on their shoulder, clipped on their shoulder, pointing in a funny direction, and then you see the wire going out away from it, and the other person is just too far away, which whatever they're doing in post, the noise floor is hideous. So the audio is just absolute garbage in this doc short. And when you have a controlled environment, like the room is relatively quiet. They're in a house, or I assume.
They have control over everything.
And the noise floor is so high, like you didn't even bother trying to put on a noise reduction plugin. So, okay, maybe you don't know how to work with audio, that's fine. And I assume that's true because the mic placement is terrible. Pro tip for everyone using lav mics. You know that Hawaiian hang loose sign? If you make that with your fist and touch your thumb to your chin and point your pinky finger down towards your chest, that's roughly the distance you want the mic to be, and that's the placement you really want the lav mic to be. And you want it pointing up towards the mouth where the sound is coming out of. It can't just be a microphone that's near somebody. Now, you can have an omnidirectional microphone, and we can get into the ins and outs of those types of things, but I'm talking for these specific lavs that were being used. And for most lavs that get used, the placement is important, and you can hide it. Like, it's not going to make or break your indie doc short if the microphone's in frame, but it's so simple to hide that microphone. Get some Rycoat stickies, and get those to stick under the clothing, and you can avoid rustle by putting the sticky on a certain way. Hide that microphone, get it closer to the mouth, have it pointing where the sound is coming out of, and you're going to get much better sound. And then you can learn about high pass filter, low pass filters, things that will take care of the refrigerator running in the kitchen nearby, or the air conditioner, and those types of things you can apply in post as well. But it seemed like the audio levels were too high. Nobody was
managing that.
writing the audio level. So there's a lot of clipping, and just the mic is kind of, mics are not pointed in the right direction. So they're getting a lot of the sound from the room.
Oh, yeah.
Which in post, whatever they've done, the noise floor is high. Look, not going to make or break the thing. I'm an audio junkie, so, I'm coming down pretty hard on this because I wanted to watch the whole thing, and I had to endure bad audio through the whole thing because I wanted to see what these guys made. Now, that being said, Experiencer, the Zachary Humway story, is our best documentary short for August.
Yay!
Congratulations, and what a cool story. I hope that Walt Peterson and Blair Harris do more like this and can kind of carve out a niche right now doing these types of things, because there's a lot of hunger for it out there on the internet. I would also suggest that they share these interviews with various UFO-centered YouTube channels that would love to post it and share these.
They're always looking for footage or interviews.
So sticking with documentary, we had a feature that was submitted. This happens to be our only documentary feature that was submitted. And I mention that because it is our winner. We'll celebrate that later. But I don't know that it would have been the winner in other months. However, director Wayne Benoit, I believe is the proper pronunciation here, sent us "Thank Me for My Service, A Veteran's Cry for Help." Now, the only reason I come down on this as saying it might not win in a different month or if there were more submissions is that it is a vlog style documentary feature. It's pretty rough as far as pacing. It doesn't do a filmmaker's job of keeping you engaged. You're really you're committing to be along for this kind of a fly on the wall ride as veteran Christopher Wayne Sparks is fighting for his sanity, as they say. And there is a written review available at IndieEyeFilmAwards.com. The reviewer of this particular film was very invested. In fact, he called me.
Yes, he did.
We had a conversation about it. He was like, he felt it very deeply, and he has a deep respect for military and for veterans, and he was expressing some things to me. So, I mean, he really took his time in writing the review. And I think I haven't read the review yet, but I think he probably does mention that presentation takes a back seat in this thing. That's for sure. As it is vlog style, it is very rough cut. But it is a truly fascinating and disturbing look at some of the interactions that Christopher Wayne Sparks shares with things that he's dealing with. So it's heavy, and it's very very
dark.
real.
Yeah.
And there are some things that just linger and they're long. I don't think it detracts from the point of it, but as a viewer, it's like you really do need to be committed. So I highly recommend everyone go check out the written review at IndieEyeFilmAwards.com for "Thank Me for My Service, A Veteran's Cry for Help," as it is our best documentary feature of August.
Yay!
Oh, and one more note I forgot to mention about "Thank Me for My Service" is that we have a YouTube link over at the winners page at IndieEye. So if you want to check it out, it's there. It's available. Okay, so that's available. Written reviews available. We'll stay with features here, and we received we received. I love the heart here. We received a feature called "Joe Hallidan: The Case of the Missing Sister." This is directed by Jody Stelzig, and it is about the search for a missing twin sister who is mired in a religious cult. And it leads private investigator Joe Hallidan to make a startling discovery about himself. Okay, so I love the premise. Much of the cinematography is excellent here. You can just tell that there was a lot of effort put into this film. I mean, it's got $150,000 budget.
That's crazy.
So while micro budget, it's not, our $5 to make an indie films thing here. And you could tell. I mean, there's money on screen, and it was finished just in July.
Wow.
My issue here, my feedback is that it felt like a Lifetime movie made in the early 90s. It was very dated. It was dated from the start.
Really?
With really bad font choices. And it starts with a 90-second long rock skipping intro.
Yeah. Now I'm recalling it. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to me. I think I removed it from my memory.
I tell you what, Jody, when our protagonist here checks his watch at the 90-second mark, so did I.
I'm trying not to laugh.
I mean, it's a good story, and it's well acted by Samuel French, who plays the lead. He did his best with what he had to work with. The lighting, the cinematography is often very pleasant to look at.
Yeah, it looked really good.
And then the sound design and editing is really troublesome because there are abrupt cuts for both visual and audio. And it's just not, it's as if the editing was an afterthought for this film. And I think the movie as a whole just greatly suffers from it. Like, a professional editor was not charged with editing this film. I almost believe someone closely involved with the film said, I'll do it, and try to figure out how to edit. This was not done by anybody who has a natural ability to edit a film. Yeah. Now, that said, understanding that whoever edited this film doesn't have a lot of experience, I think they got through it pretty darn well.
Good.
And by default, they were our only narrative feature that I felt told a complete story, clearly intent to make a quality project. It's just the choices made were very dated, and I'm talking aesthetically mostly, but solid acting throughout. I think the director should be very proud of how much of this film looks, and that the heart of the story is there.
Good.
Did a great job. And that earns Joe Hallidan, The Case of the Missing Sister, directed by Jody Stelzig, our best narrative feature for August of 2022.
Yay!
All right, where are we going next here? Let me see. Let me look at my notes, people. Let's see.
One of my favorites is coming up next.
Well, you're not supposed to play favorite.
But it's good. I'm allowed to have opinions.
Actually, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about our horror category, because that's where you want to go?
Yeah.
You want to go in there? All right. Wow. Okay, so first off, the narrative shorts we received this month were phenomenal. I mean, the absolute hardest decisions we've had to make in narrative shorts, but surprisingly also in horror. Yeah. I mean, in several of these. Let me tell you, folks, I spent an extraordinary amount of time trying to figure out where everybody is placing. And the conversations Dre and I have had about what about this, this goes here, this fits here. This month, behind the scenes, lots of discussion. Normally we can figure it out as we go, and
normally it's pretty obvious.
And there were times where I was like, "Hey, can you go back, watch this again, and tell me what you think about this specifically?" So there were a couple of times this month where there were winners inked in, and then it changed for one reason or the other, and not for bad reasons, but just the way we had to work it out. So we're going to talk about best horror here. I believe our top 3 that were submitted for best horror, I'm going to name them for you because I like all the names. We have Boxed, which was cool.
Yep.
We have Knock, which was cool.
Yep.
And we have Knock Knock, which was also
cool.
So Boxed, Knock, and Knock Knock.
We had plenty of fun sandwiched letter, scrambled sentence fun with that.
Now, I'm going to talk about all of these films at some point or the other here in the episode. But the one I want to talk about right now was directed by Zachary Valentine, and he submitted Knock.
Just one knock.
Just one knock.
Yep.
Knock singular, not knock plural. And the premise here is I'm sorry, let me start again because this is unedited.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you. One late night, a young man receives an unexpected visit from an ominous presence. Very simple premise.
Yeah, very generic. You don't know what's going to happen.
Now, what I love here is that this is a one-man show. Zach did this all himself. It's creatively and skillfully shot.
Very much.
There's a legitimate creepy cliffhanger. It's short.
Yes.
And this was our only horror submitted to us that had a solid jump scare. Now, I'm generally not a fan of the jump scare because you can usually see it coming. It's usually just done as a very cheap thrill. And, I'm just not a huge fan of the jump scare. But when it can get me, when it coincides with timing and editing and story, then that's fun. And Zachary Valentine did that with Knock. So the whole thing is simple, but it did its job and it didn't overstay its welcome. It's 3 minutes long, I believe.
Yeah, just over 3 minutes.
Right. So very concise.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
Short film. This is something that can get programmed everywhere.
Yep.
So if you're doing your horror short, it doesn't need to be very long. Let's get to the fun of it and get it programmed, because I think Zach can probably place in a lot of places with Knock. And I think what he did well here was he's thinking things out. He's having to shoot it himself. I believe I saw he did it on like a Canon 80D. So he's having to think through his shots, set things up. He does a very good job at making sure the lighting is appropriate, his exposure is appropriate.
He acts well in it.
He does act well.
It is very difficult. I don't believe people act when they act scared. To me, I can always tell when they are not legitimately scared.
Right.
You have to be such a good actor to do horror, I think. I don't watch a lot of horror, but it just feels like it all feels very fake to me. So you better nail your facial expressions and look like you care about what's happening, because otherwise I will not believe you. And he really, really nails it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I feel like I've been lectured. Okay, I promise I'll do that. But yeah, and another good thing is Knock is on YouTube. So I have the link over at IndieEye Film Awards on the winners page, because Zachary Valentine, who submitted Knock, is... I really screwed up this announcement.
That's
by the
okay.
way. I want to tell Zachary Valentine that we're featuring his YouTube link over at the winners page, because Knock is our best horror of August of 2022.
Yay!
Very good job. Now, we're going to talk about a couple of these other horror films throughout, so stay tuned for that. They were very fun as well.
Yes.
And so I can't wait to talk about those, but let's move on to another. Gosh. I guess we're going to hit our narrative short category here. And
also, hashtag another fave.
Yeah, it's so great. And I have so much to say here.
Give me a period piece all day, every day.
Yeah, well, and we got a couple of them.
Yeah.
So, but I want to talk about this one submitted to us, directed by Robert Carreri. This is called Cadillac, a mobster fairy tale. And Robert's doing things in my wheelhouse here. And here's the synopsis. In 1969, after the love of his life leaves him in the dust, a young soldier in Boston's Italian mafia must decide whether his future will be one of violence and lust or love and morality. And Robert submits this. This is also a student project from Emerson College. And I'd like to read a little bit about Robert here as well. I am a filmmaker from Beverly, Massachusetts, and a recent graduate of Emerson College with a degree in film and TV production as well as a history minor. So
that shows.
He's coming to it with some skill here.
Yeah.
My passion for storytelling goes as far back as my earliest childhood memories, creating stories in my head and playing them out with action figures on my living room floor. Now, that's what I wanted to read because I can't tell you how many filmmakers got their start that way. I did the same thing. I had no camera or anything at the time, but for me, I'm a little bit further back than the young Robert Carreri, but like for me, it was with my original Star Wars characters, G.I. Joe, Transformers, stories constantly going on. And I talked about being a cartoonist. I used to draw my own comic books from the age of, 6 until I got too interested in girls to draw comics anymore. Babes didn't find that hot, if you'll believe. But so it's just really relatable here in this film. Why don't you tell people what you thought of it first?
Me?
Yes,
I'd love to. Okay. First of all, I totally believed that I was in that era. The costuming was great. The coloring was great. The way that they talked, the acting made you 100% believe that they lived in this world.
Right.
And that, to me, then I'm in. Then I'm invested. And it was from there super, super cool.
Well, I'd also like to read the director's statement because I think there's some great information here and just kind of give people a look about, or give you a look at some insight into this film. So here is the director's statement. Cadillac, a mobster fairy tale, is a true passion project and labor of love for me. Bringing together my admiration of classic gangster films and my strong connection with Italian-American culture, this film is one that has been developing in my head for many years, and it's surreal to see it finally brought to life. Amen, I know how that feels. Some of my earliest childhood memories took place when visiting my grandmother in the North End of Boston, which is where this film takes place and was shot entirely. Helming such a production in the streets where my father and his family grew up for many generations was an inspiring, full-circle experience for me that I'm so excited to share with others. And I just thought that was a great piece of information. Mm-hmm. It shows the love for what he's doing shows in everything. And this was a fun film from start to finish. There's a really good nod to Goodfellas.
I almost asked you when the dude sat down, I almost said, was that whole thing a oneer?
Oh yeah.
And it was.
Yep. And it's not as long and complicated as the one in Goodfellas, but it's just enough to make you smile and go, that's fun. Yeah. I loved it. And the care and direction that has to go into executing something like that, especially at an indie level, takes a lot of skill.
Yeah.
So
there were so many shots I appreciated that told stories, told points of the story that didn't have to be spoken.
Right.
There were so many of those. I have one tiny critique that happened twice.
I know what you're gonna say.
Do you know which one?
Yeah, say it.
Am I allowed to say it?
Please.
I didn't appreciate the fact that he had Coke on his nose.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
No. Twice, 2 shots where he's got Coke like on his like upper lip. Like he's trying to communicate that this dude's a cokehead.
Right.
I didn't need to see that because we already saw him doing the line. So we don't need it just felt fake. That part felt fake because that's not going to happen in real life. It just
How do you know?
I don't know.
How do you know?
I don't know that. It's not going to happen in real life. It's not that messy.
Well, okay.
And so that was my only, it took me out.
Pardon us while we argue here, folks.
It took me out.
Okay, I understand that. I thought you were going to talk about the lack of continuity with the cigarette smoking.
Yes, I forgot about that. That really was something that my attention to detail.
Let me try to be real concise here. There's a part in the movie. First of all, let me talk about the Coke nose. I could see why he was doing this to show the excessive use of. I mean, if you watch Goodfellas, Coke all over the place.
Yes,
but and maybe perhaps he's using it so much he doesn't even realize it's there. I mean, I get that.
One time,
I did not know you were going to mention that.
The first time it happened, I understood why, because the boss was like, wipe that shit off your face. So I get the purpose for that. But when it happens again, that to me felt very fake. And like it did not need to happen because you can tell.
Now hold on. Okay. Now hold on. See, this is unfair to anybody who hasn't seen this. But I would say that the second time you see that, is that real?
Yeah, it's because of the twist.
So I would say there's room for interpretation there.
I'll let it go.
Okay.
But I can't let go of the cigarette.
Yeah, there's a character who's sitting down and smoking a cigarette, and
it's a back and forth conversation. So obviously they're filmed at different times.
The continuity with the hands and the smoking is off because that's such a hard. Yeah. You're doing multiple takes and you're controlling a cigarette. Yeah. It's so difficult to pull
it's so
off.
minor.
But we caught it, and I just thought it was funny. But
again,
it doesn't detract.
It does not detract from it. But I said to myself, how many times is he going to put out the same cigarette?
Now, let's be fair, because we're giving the director a lot of credit here. Yeah. There are a lot of people who contributed talents to this film. And we're talking about cinematography, which was done by Jacob Panzer. There is a sound design team.
It shows.
Yeah. And so, I mean, did all of these people, were they all at Emerson? Were they all involved with this? Because how do you get this many talented people together? But there's a sound design team here, and I'm just going to try to read some names because I want to show love. Ryan Collins, Roberto Mengoli, who was the composer, Tim Starnes. It has him credited as music mixer, but it gives him credits from Hugo, 2005's King Kong, and Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Sound designer, Foley artist, Delilah LaRusso, Zara Weltman as a dialogue editor, and a master mixer of Diego Pugliese. Sorry, Diego.
Puglisi.
My boy Diego.
Puglisi. We know Puglisi's.
And it's not spelt the same, though.
No? It looks like it.
It's not quite the same, but it could be. But either way, this team, and I'm sure I'm missing people, but I have these names written down because the sound is incredible. The score, the music they're playing. They go back and get some old footage of like Dean Martin and a Cadillac commercial. Yep. And I mean, it's all used so well and it fits seamlessly. It doesn't look out of place. It doesn't look forced.
There's no weird cuts that take you out of it.
Editing's phenomenal. Yeah. There's just so much we want to say about this film. Well, you know what? I completely glossed over the fact that because of this excellent sound design, Cadillac: A Mobster Fairy Tale wins our Best Sound Design category for August of 2022.
Yay!
And clearly you hear that we enjoyed the film as a narrative short. So, Robert Carreri, you and your team put together something we enjoyed so much. You are our winner for Best Narrative Short of August of 2022.
Yay!
Thank you all for submitting that. And you guys got to know, in the narrative shorts this month, the competition was so tough. The bar was so high. There are other short films that were submitted that would have been winners in several other months.
Beautifully shot.
They're going to go on and win in other places. They're going to have good runs, and we're going to talk about a lot of them. But in the end, I guess because of our rules here, we've got to pick one winner. If I could give like 8 winners, that would be great. But then it wouldn't mean much.
It wouldn't mean much if everybody's getting a trophy.
But I really feel like this month was just worthy of a lot of good stuff. And another short we received was actually submitted for narrative short and best horror, and I get that, and I think that's very wise of the director to submit to. And I'm talking about Knock Knock. Directed by Wes Davis, who's also in it. Well, he's more involved than just that, but the synopsis for Knock Knock is: Jonathan waits for his mom to come over as something has been knocking around his house. Chaos ensues as he investigates what is taunting him. I'm not sure we had a submission that was given more thought and rewatches than this one, because there's so much good about it. And so Wes stars in it. He directs it, writes it, stars in it. And I think he's also probably the one thing that holds it back. Because I really, in the end, I wish Wes would have cast somebody else.
Agreed.
As the lead, and let Wes take control of directing that person.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the performance.
And like I was saying, with horror movies, you better let me see that you're scared. Like, I want you scared out of your mind.
Yeah, we just didn't buy the acting. Nope. But Wes, please listen. This is a beautiful short film. The cinematography is great. The lighting is excellent. Audio, super solid. Misty Bass is in this. She tackles 3 roles, and I thought she did that very well. I think Wes is a very talented guy, but if acting is one of those talents, I just didn't experience that here. And it often takes me out of the story. So he said, there's never a sense of danger. I mean, it's interesting. It is very interesting.
I like the ripples of the story.
Yeah.
Really do.
The way things are woven together, and there are some cool editing choices as well. But it's never tense or scary, in my opinion. Well, in your opinion as well.
Right.
The title track, written and produced by Wes Davis, is excellent. There's a song called Knock Knock that plays a little bit during and then at the end. And I believe that is performed by Lilia Kysil, Kysil. Sorry, Lilia. I could be butchering just everything here, but beautiful voice. It's well sung. And so Wes Davis produced the song. He wrote it and produced it. And I think it may be the best original song we've ever heard on IndieEye.
Yeah, it felt very authentic, like legit.
He's a wizard. Wes Davis is a wizard in the recording studio for sure. And
you would know.
Well, yeah, I would remember. It's not like I'm in a recording studio anytime.
No, but you have experience there.
But this is one of those films that deserves more awards than we're able to give it for this particular month. But these guys, Wes, your whole team here, you guys got to be super proud of Knock Knock. And I love your poster. And I think you're doing all the right things here. It was just a super tough month. But Knock Knock does win for Best Original Song for August of 2022.
Yay!
I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah. So go follow Wes Davis on Instagram. Go to the winners page with everybody. Check out the links we try to post up there. Follow this Mr. Wes Davis because he's got a career in front of him, and I think he's super, super talented. I just don't know that I want Wes acting.
Yeah, in front of the camera.
In the next thing. I want him to take charge behind and be the maestro. And
because he's got amazing ideas and knows how to execute them for sure.
Okay, so, oh gosh, we gotta, listen, I know I'm a broken record here with audio, and does the podcast always come out perfect? No, sometimes there are flaws because we're exhausted when we record and blah, 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 and excuse. Also, in the Bad Review special bonus episode, at the 2 hour and 49 minute mark, that's right, 2 hours.
That's specific.
And 49 minutes, Dante's audio drops out for about 20 seconds, so you don't hear him. And so I'm responding to somebody who's not there speaking. It's hilarious. We're only talking about like micro budget financial tiers, things like that, and some stuff like that. It's not very important. So, but I guess I just deleted a clip of Dante's audio there and then rendered it, put it out. But thankfully, a listener caught it. But yeah, so that's all to say. It's hard to be perfect with audio.
But it's not hard to be good.
The times that I run into bad audio, it's not like somebody's, YouTube channel where they're just throwing stuff up there vlog style or anything and the audio just isn't great. That's fine. We get submissions where people put effort into making films and then paying money to submit them. And then you submit it with audio that is garbage. I'm not talking about, well, the compression rate isn't that good, or maybe it's a little low, or there's some clipping. I'm talking about garbage.
Like it sounds
audio.
Like they're inside of a trash can.
I need, okay. People hear me. If you listen to multiple episodes of IndieEye, I bang on this all the time. And there's no shortage of it in the Bad Review Special bonus episode of the IndieEye Film Awards podcast.
We're going to talk about
okay,
some
so
movies.
I just want to say that before I move on. We received a submission called The Secret Weapon, Yesterday is Today. Now, I'm kind of excited about this one because it's directed by Ken Sagos. Ken is a Hollywood alum. He's Kincaid. He's a dream warrior from the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I mean, he's done
so cool.
He's done a ton of stuff since then. It's not, I hate to call him out for just being Kincaid. This man's been involved in Hollywood for a very, very long time. He's got a lot of credits to his name. You can look him up. Ken Sagos, Sagoes. Very likable guy. In this particular submission, I'm going to read the synopsis. The story centers around 6 teenagers in the spring of 1963 who became a part of one of the most significant demonstrations in the history of the civil rights movement. These 6 young people joined thousands of others and went toe-to-toe with the legendary godfather of segregation, Eugene Bull Connor. Some of these children were as young as 4 years of age, placed into crowded, roach-infested jails and hog pens at the local fairgrounds. Dr. King, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, and other leaders were cornered on how to get them released. But the youth did not stop until their cries reached the ears of President John F. Kennedy, and the world watched. It was an event that crippled the back of the segregation era and gave power to the movement, and gave power back to the movement. The children are often called the secret weapon of the civil rights movement. So this is based on a true story.
Very cool.
I love this little piece of history. The potential here is enormous. So my main issue here, well, let me talk about good things, because Ken knows that casting is directing. This man has been around Hollywood enough, and he clearly knew how to find some really great talent, because the people on screen are phenomenal.
They are so good.
And it's a great story. It is a narrative short that runs about 38 minutes long. It's not terribly short, but something like this, there's so much information. Yeah. And for something like this, there's so much room to play. And I like that he gives these actors and these characters, some of which are major historical figures, room to, play in this world. And I wish I could have watched the whole thing, Ken, but I couldn't, because the sound here is absolutely atrocious. So I could not finish it. Now, Andrew Tyler is credited here as the editor of this short film. And I'm going to tell you, Ken, you owe that man a steak dinner.
And add some lobster.
Or whatever. I don't know. Maybe he's unfortunately vegan and he's made terrible decisions. No, whatever. Well, whatever the man wants. Because I couldn't have endured that job. If I would have received the audio, I'd have been like, nah, that ain't me. You got to do this right. Whoever was in charge of capturing sound for this project should be brought up on charges. I don't know what those charges would be.
I don't know that they exist.
It's, but like, how do I even describe it to the listener? There's at times where it's horrifically clipping. And
now, what is clipping? Explain to the audience what it sounds when audio clips.
Well, the science of the clipping is that the loudness of your signal is exceeding the limits of the microphone or the recorder being used. So if you imagine kind of like a Luma scale where you have a 0 and a 100, 0 being all black on a Luma scale, 100 being your whites, and if you expose above that 100, your whites are going to be clipped,
overexposed.
There are variables here, but you're going to be overexposed. It's like overexposing your audio.
That makes sense.
So you can capture a clean signal, or see, and I'm not supposed to do any editing here because I'm recording on 32-bit float, so it's going to keep me in. It's not going to make me.
Is it not going to clip you?
It
when you
won't.
do this
I actually
example?
had to I had to go in and edit an example in the bad review special, but I'll try to fake it here. This is clipping. Welcome to IndieEye Film Awards. So I don't know if that's going to come across, but it's agitating.
To the
it's
ear. It's
unnatural. Yeah. It's so unprofessional. There is audio where, was it just an onboard mic and the camera was in the back of the room? Did audio fail throughout? I don't know what I would love it if Ken emailed me at hello@IndieEyeFilmAwards.com and explained to me so that I could wrap my brain around what happened. There's so many people working hard to make this a great short. And the audio's so bad I can't reconcile it. Now, John Doe, who just picked up a camera and is trying to do his indie film for $3 and get his practice in, I get it. But Ken, I expect more of you, sir. Young man, you fought Freddy Krueger. You called Lawrence Fishburne ugly. You're a dream warrior. You've been around. You know better than this. So I'm not telling Ken something he doesn't know.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out what the hell happened with the audio.
Yeah, it's bad.
Now, that said, I endured enough.
Yeah.
This is a good story.
The acting is amazing.
I like Ken's choices. I just don't know what happened with the audio.
Yeah.
But the actors are fantastic.
And the actors together.
That's a good point.
Are great.
Because The Secret Weapon, Yesterday is Today, does win our best ensemble cast for August of 2022.
Yay!
Ken, seriously, please email me and let me know. And if you need to have a call and we got to, have a beer on the phone and talk about audio woes and some stuff that went down, that's fine. I'm here to help you and be therapeutic. So I don't want, I got to assume something went horrifically wrong and you've done the best you can to salvage everything. But this is good work. I appreciate you submitting, man. I'm a fan. So thanks for sharing that with us. Now we're talking about acting.
Yeah.
And we received another short that actually featured some actors, some IndieEye alum actors.
Yeah, that we like.
That we love. And this film was called Stalk. Stalk was directed by Thomas Prill. It's actually also produced by an IndieEye favorite, Pride Pierce. Pride's gained some awards from IndieEye. Mm-hmm. And it features actors we've talked about before, such as Kelly Quinn and Michelangelo Blackwell. But it also features a gentleman by the name of Brian Ramian, who is the lead in Stalk. All right, so the synopsis here is a homeless man invades the home of his sister to confront their shared torturous past and provide hope to the future. Simply put, this is just me talking now. This short is about child abuse, and it's about how to deal with child abusers, which Thomas Prill says in his bio stuff that it may be extreme the way child abusers are dealt with in this, but I don't think so. No. I think if anything, they got off easy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Put them in a cage. So I'm totally on board to draw attention to this. I have no problem with how Thomas Prill dealt with the child abusers in this film. There's also a written review available for Stalk. So there are 3 new written reviews available at IndieEyeFilmAwards.com. Stalk is one of them. I suggest everyone go check out that written review. But I will also say that I had a lot of problems with Stalk. And while it does star some people we love, I don't believe it was directed well. So I don't believe they got an ability to really shine and have a lot of range, because I know they're more talented than what we experienced on screen. Now, Thomas Prill is doing this out of passion. He's always wanted to be a filmmaker, and I think he's headed in the right direction.
For sure. He did a lot of things right.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So Thomas, we're going to be harder than we should be for this particular thing, but because so many people are involved that we adore, we hold you all to a high standard. And so this is I think it was about 18 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it should have been half that. And we say that a lot.
Yeah.
But this is very true because the pacing is poor. It drags. Yeah. It shouldn't be that long. I think it'd be a much more powerful narrative if it was shorter. Mm-hmm. If we got there, did the things. Yeah. There's like a lot of talking. Yes. There's so much exposition. Well, and there's
there's no exposition.
Well, there is towards the end, but it's difficult to say without giving away everything about the film.
It feels like the, and I know this is what twists are supposed to do, but it's like the twist came out of nowhere. You didn't even get any build up to the twist. You really didn't have much of an idea of that there was a thing that he was trying to get to. You got none of that. And so I was like, it felt like a complete 180 for me, because none of the dialogue that was in the first part ever made you think that there was something behind the thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There is a misdirection.
Yes.
But there are no breadcrumbs.
There aren't, exactly.
Which is,
I just felt like I missed something. Be better.
But now, like I said, I think Thomas is headed in the right direction. I think the road is just a little bumpy right now. So I don't want him to be discouraged by what we're saying. I wish I could see Kelly Quinn and Michelangelo Blackwell get bigger opportunities to flex their range. So it was fun to see their names on. And then when watching it, I was like, that's all you did with them? Like, I don't know. I will say that Stalk is a great child abuse awareness short. I think it would be stellar at half the length. I think it could easily get programmed. And so there's one other hang up that I had with Stalk, and that is a costume design choice where the lead actor has to wear, Brian Ramian has to wear this clearly fake beard and hair thing and the eyebrows. And it's, I keep thinking I'm looking at a Muppet.
Yes.
I thought, did Jim Henson do the production design here? Because unfortunately, it's such a serious scenario. Yes. And especially at the end, when there's some dialogue going on at the end, and I know. I can't take Fozzie Bear, seriously. That's a major problem. I get
it's all I could focus on.
He's supposed to be a bum. He's homeless. Obviously, we're shown that in the beginning, but we don't need.
There's other ways to do it.
Yeah,
have the man grow. He could have a 4-day shadow.
Or if that just can't work, you could at least just dirty up his face, and he could be clean shaven. That would have been a better thing than the clearly fake and ridiculous beard.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about that is that Brian Ramian does such a good job acting through that damn thing that he earns Best Actor for August of 2022.
Yay!
And that's for Stock, directed by Thomas Prill, produced by Pride Pierce. Pride, you got to send me an email too, man, and tell me what was the behind-the-scenes story with the beard.
Yeah, but I had to intentionally focus on his eyes so that I wasn't distracted by all of the fakeness.
Right.
It didn't lend to his character more. I felt like it hid his facial expressions, because at the end, when it's heartfelt, he was masked, essentially.
Right.
You couldn't see through all that. And
it didn't give Brian a chance to really shine, because he's constantly behind this carpet he's wearing on his face.
And that end,
like a 70s shag carpet.
Yes. The end needed that. What am I trying to say? Like, it needed that vulnerability to really hit home.
I'm going to address a couple other minor nitpicks only because I care about Thomas and this team. One, well, I'm not going to worry about spoiling things, but there is a gunshot. There are several. Let's say there are not several, there are multiple. Upon the first one, if somebody was shot where that person was standing, as you're showing me, that body would not have been where it was when we come back to it. It was an odd placement of the body. And we never needed to see the follow-up of him doing anything with the body. Nope. You can understand that he's going to cover things up.
Yeah, he didn't need to actually cover things up. Now, hold on one second. What? As a true crime aficionado and someone who minored in criminal justice, people who are close to the victims will intentionally cover them up because they psychologically feel bad about what they've done in their heart, and so they will do that. I get that.
Yes.
Not necessary for the movie.
Well, right. And I don't like it. Well, if Thomas wants that in the film, like, I thought maybe we were going to come back through the room later. Yeah. Like maybe a hero walkout of some sort. Yeah. And then the bodies could be covered.
Shown.
Otherwise, if he did want to get the point across that he did this before going downstairs, it could just be quick.
Yep.
Foom, foom.
Exactly. It could just be the corner of the blanket showing that it was covering the face.
Well, just dropping them down would have been fine.
A close-up of that.
Anything would have been fine.
Yep.
It lingered on the cover-up way too long. And here's another problem I have with that. Both, spoiler alert, both with the two characters who are shot, the blood from that wound was illogically on. It was like it was put on while they were standing up. And then they laid down. Yeah. Instead of if you were shot in that area and then were on the ground, that's not where the blood would go.
Gravity.
So that pulled me out too. That wasn't.
Yeah.
And we didn't need to see it.
Exactly.
We never needed to see the dead people.
Blood scenes are hard with indie films, and it isn't necessary unless you're going for gore. It didn't need to show it at all.
Right.
We knew what happened. Let us imagine it. We've all seen what it should look like.
That was extra time in production used for those effects and things like that were not necessary. And it added to the runtime of your film, which then hurt your film, in my opinion. Those are things we can be specific about as far as shortening the film, and things that we had problems with pulled us out of the story of the film. But all that said, just reiterating, Brian Ramian, great performance. I think Thomas Prill is, again, in the right direction. And I hope he gets to work with these people again. I hope, this seems like, I feel like Pride Pierce is in the middle of this indie community in Southern California, and he's like gathering people around him. And I love to see him on Instagram, see that he's into something, doing something. He's constantly working. And the more I see Kelly Quinn and Michelangelo Blackwell, the better for me. So thank you guys for submitting that. I got to move on. So we're going to move on to a German film that was submitted. This was crazy because this is the film is called Lebensraum. It's directed by Hans Marr. And the entire thing's in subtitles for me. Thank you guys, so I could actually follow the story. But I can't express to you enough how beautiful this film was shot.
Yeah, start to finish.
Just every pixel is on point. The acting is fantastic. The directing is clearly fantastic. The story in itself, I wasn't a giant fan of just the actual story of what was happening. Just the way it kind of played out. There's a lot of sitting and talking. And we do this in indie films a lot because it's like the cheapest thing we can do. And it's the easiest thing to write. Yeah, just like us right here. But the amount of time spent sitting and talking in indie films is massive. Yeah. Sometimes I'll skim through a thing and just be like, look, sitting and talking, sitting and talking, sitting and talking, sitting alone, being moody.
Yeah.
But this film, Lebensraum, is elevated. It's beyond that, of course. There's intent and things that actually going on. The discussion, the dialogues need to happen. They're very important to the film. But you cannot escape how beautiful the cinematography is by Philip Seifert. And Lebensraum earns our best cinematography for August of 2022.
Yay!
But also, and this is, just to read the synopsis real quick, Marie Kaufman has to face an unusual interview, that's sitting and talking, that decides not only her own fate, but that's all that I have on the synopsis. So, and again, it comes from Germany. The polish and craft in this film are top tier. The acting is stellar. And I felt that Hans Marr is well deserving of our best director of August of 2022.
Yay!
Okay, I think that's all the categories.
Those are all the winners.
But I have honorable mentions and so many and things to talk about with these honorable mentions. So if you're listening, I haven't talked about your film, keep listening because, this isn't just an afterthought here. But I want to start with Boxed, a submission sent to us by Shangyi Yu, I believe. And she is an LA-based freelance director and cinematographer. She is a supporter of Arturism, an idealist, and a jazz fan. This is the type of thing I'm looking for at IndieEye. She made a 2-minute short. Yeah. She submitted to horror, which I get. It could have worked for several things, but it's a wonderful little short film, I believe, needs to be programmed everywhere. And let me read her synopsis because she says it better than me. Well, actually, she wrote us a really nice cover letter, and this gives me an opportunity to reiterate. Hey, people, if you're submitting your films, not just to IndieEye, but to all film festivals, you're on there on Film Freeway, you've got your project set up, you're submitting to film festivals, please. It's not necessary, but it's highly recommended, especially with us, for certain reasons. Take the time to include a cover letter. It's just a box you click and fill out. You could
write 2 paragraphs.
You could make it cookie cutter and change the name. Don't forget to change the name. Yeah, don't get caught. But we get it. But also important for us is that when you're submitting a cover letter, that's your opportunity to explain to us who you would like considered in particular categories, such as Best Actor. If you're submitting for Best Actor and there's more than one person in your film, I don't know who you're talking about.
And we're not going to pick. That's not our job.
No. It's on the Film Freeway rules. I've expressed this throughout several podcasts. Please include a cover letter. Please tell us who you're crediting for Best Actor, or who you're submitting for Best Actor, who you would like us to consider. And I mean, just on that same vein, please make sure you're filling out your credits for your films. Who's your cinematographer? Who got your sound? Give me these names so that right there on Film Freeway, I don't care if it's already over on IMDb or whatever, or it's in the credits of the film. Please make my job easier and make everybody who's running a film festival make their job easier. Because if they want to call attention to people, I'd like that to be there. If I want to say, hey, the cinematography of this was beautiful, or even if you've submitted for best cinematography, please make sure your cinematographer, whoever operated your camera, can you credit that person? Okay, but back to Boxed. This was Shang Yi Yu's cover letter to us, and it says, my film Boxed explores in 2 minutes, which I appreciate, how humans lose themselves in the big data era where short videos are all the rage. Sometimes I indulge in such a fast food culture as well. It's like an invisible monster stealing our time and energy, turning us into muddled walking corpses. Amen to that, sister. Yes, it is fascinating, but it's also dangerous. I want to make a film like this to warn myself and others that we can easily trap ourselves in a cage of data, and the worst part is that by the time we realize it, it's too late.
Dum, dum, dum.
Oh my gosh. She also says, I like to explore relationships between individuals and the relationship between the individual and the world. And as a supporter of our tourism, I believe that I have the instinct and sensibility to tell a good story with my own cinema language. Hope you enjoy it. And you know what? We did. It's 2 minutes. It makes a great point. It was submitted as a horror, which...
Because it was a thriller.
I get it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But it's more than that. You know, I think a lot of the times, and myself included, when I hear horror, I'm expecting, okay, there's going to be blood and gore and scares and all of that. And, you know, there is scares. And it's genuine. And it's fresh.
Yeah.
It's a great...
I've not
seen
anything
simple.
Like
this. It's executed very simply. She didn't need much to make this short film. She didn't make it 30 minutes long and express all of her opinions about social media. There was never two people talking.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And it came full circle. The whole story
yes.
started from the beginning and ended where you're like, oh, look at that. That came full circle.
I just 100% enjoyed this. And I have a little bit of feedback, because just something that if I was involved, I would have said, let's do this. But when our subject is trapped in a space and we're looking at it from far away, I would have liked to not be able to hear that person's steps or sounds, anything coming from that person. Maybe the outside natural sounds, but as if you can't hear, like that person, there is a barrier. If they can't walk out of it, maybe we can't hear them either. That's just something that I kind of felt was
missing.
Yeah, I felt like that could have elevated the production value at zero cost. And I thought that would have been cool. Now, she may have intentionally had it in there for any other reason, but we enjoyed it. It just, it's one of those months where it's tough. But I will say that she's got a shot at having this shown in so many places because it's short. You can program it. It's fun. It's interesting. And I haven't seen anything like it. It's fresh. Good job. You're absolutely an honorable mention. And we're going to talk about the rest of our honorable mentions going forward here. We received another short film submitted for I'm sorry. Let me back this up. This is the unedited version of the podcast, clearly. But we received, you know what, folks? We're going to get real raw here. I'm going to grab some water. So stand by. This is your opportunity to also take a drink. And I am drinking water as opposed to the several beers that Dante and I had between us for the Bad Review Special bonus episode of IndieEye Film Awards, which you should absolutely go listen to. So we received a submission called For I Am Dead, and this was directed by Patricia Delso Lucas. Well, she also wrote it.
That's cool.
Yeah. And there is also a written review available. This is one of the 3 new written reviews available at IndieEyeFilmAwards.com. But here's the synopsis. In late 1800s Europe, Oscar, a wealthy but lonely middle-aged man who has lived a decadent, extravagant life in a chateau filled with wine, courtesans, and opium, which sounds awesome, confesses love to his gardener, Jude, before he dies of his excesses.
Scandalous.
It is quite. 1800s. Jude is not a girl.
Very Bridgerton.
Yeah. Oh, is it really? Okay.
A little. I mean, the era. It's Europe. It's,
got it. I got it.
They're rich.
Okay. So, wow. Al Nasmian and Rigsby Lane, who are the 2 main characters in this, turn in great performances. This thing looks gorgeous. Yeah, it sounds great. The costume design and production design are out of this world. And I want to call out some names here. We've got Dominika Podchaska for cinematography. He's the DOP. Brilliant stuff. Tom Bourgeois, I hope that's correct, with an original score. It's just absolutely beautiful. Patricia Delso Lucas, who directed and wrote it, is responsible for production design and art direction. I don't know if she went back in time and lived in this period for a while. And I don't know. I can't even understand the effort put into making this look as good as it does. And the sound design by, did my voice just crack?
Just a smidge.
Great. Oh man, I'm almost going to hit puberty. That's a great sign.
No, please no. You're already 16.
The sound design by David Farrell is brilliant. And Miguel Penaranda Almeida is responsible for costume design here.
So authentic. Everything was really, really good.
A stellar job. I can't say enough about the cinematography. And Al Nasmian and Rigsby Lane, really solid in these roles. I mean, tough. I would imagine tough roles. I mean, it's dangerous, again, for an indie film to do a lot of sit and talking. Mm-hmm. And they do that here. I said do. They do that here.
Again, 16.
That was mature. But they're doing it well. And For I Am Dead was a big contender for a narrative short.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it's tough competition. We ended up going in another direction here, but I believe it's an honorable mention, but I think all of our honorable mentions are like, they're worth more than the honorable mention, but this is what we have.
Second place winner.
You could say that. Yeah.
Like you won.
And things like Boxed and For I Am Dead and the others we're going to talk about could easily be winners in other festivals or for us on a different particular month.
Yeah, it depends on kind of who you're up against. Remember, it is a competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that is true. So there's a written review for I Am Dead, as well as Stock and Thank Me for My Service.
Right.
Highly recommend people go check that out. But great work by Patricia Delso Lucas, the other folks involved, Al Nasmian, Rigsby Lane. Congratulations on just really making a work of art here. It's great stuff. Another project we received was directed by Ala Dul, and it's called Under the Sun. And The synopsis here is the movie is a visual stimulation raising unique human qualities: compassion, empathy, trust, spirituality, unconditional love, and forgiveness. I have like 2 of these things myself. But I don't know what to make of this. It's really an experimental short, if anything, because it's not long. I forget the runtime, and I'm not looking at my computer right now. But it's not long. But the thing about it is that it's another work of art. Has absolutely beautiful production. The cinematography is astounding. I mean, it's some of the best we have this month. It's some of the best we've ever even seen. The sound design's great. The music used, the score is fantastic. But it's an experimental piece that just didn't quite compete as a narrative short for us, but it deserves attention. It's definitely worth the watch for the well-crafted visuals alone. And that is called Under the Sun by Ala Dul, another honorable mention. And I have one more honorable mention here, and then just some other things to say. Oh boy. So we received an Australian submission by Ashley Dighton, who's also the writer here. It's called A Stretching Moment.
I fought a little bit for this one.
Yeah, you did. Tell us about.
I just thought that it was really clean. I thought the shots were great. I thought the acting was good. I thought they played well with each other, and I thought I just felt like with the characters themselves, the way that they were directed, you understood them. You just kind of
it is very well directed.
Yeah, it was well directed. So for me, it was just a fun, beautiful thing to watch.
Right. Well, in my notes were that it's fresh.
Yep.
It's playful. It is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's well paced.
It really is.
And the synopsis is: a coffee shop worker's life is upturned when a strange premonition warns him of the end of his world. I thought Ashley Dighton has some really unique talent. Mm-hmm. I love how it starts. I love the playfulness of everything. It all looks great. It's well directed, well acted. Sound is good. I can't really have anything to pick apart here. It's just that it was in tough competition.
Yeah.
So it's certainly an honorable mention. It deserves more attention.
We really wanted to make sure it got talked about.
Yeah, it's fantastic work. I look forward to anything Ashley does in the future, and I hope we see more work. Oh my gosh, I think we got through the titles, and wow. Okay, so this episode will be shorter than I thought it would be because of all of this, and I'm exhausted from talking, but I just want to reiterate that we have written reviews. IndieEye Film Awards offers written reviews. It is outsourced, sort of.
Yeah.
It's not us. It started
not you
at
or
us
I.
When it began. I was doing them, and then there was too many submissions. It took too much work, and I wanted people to have a different opinion than maybe what they would hear on the podcast. Mm-hmm. So I wanted people who submitted for a written review to get more value out of their, the money, the submission. So we have written reviews. We have a huge reveal about those written reviews in the Bad Review Special, a bonus episode of IndieEye Film Awards. So I'm not going to give it away here because I want you to go over there and check out that episode if you haven't heard it. That's the Bad Review Special. And almost immediately in the podcast, as I introduce Dante, we have a big reveal. Not big, but whatever. I'm trying to build it up. Listen, I'm trying to make you interested in going to listen. But there's some more information about our written reviews there. Additionally, and I think you will understand more if you do listen to the Bad Review Special, why I'm saying this now. Starting September 1st, we are raising the prices of the written reviews. So they're going to go...
the other submissions, correct?
What's that?
The other categories as well?
No.
Oh, I thought you said that. Okay.
No. This is specifically for written reviews.
Okay.
Because the person who's doing the written reviews is honestly spending an extraordinary amount of time and effort, and he's so passionate about giving these films a good watch and
sometimes a second or third watch.
I'm telling him, don't waste your time. But but he's giving you everything. And I have convinced him he needs to raise his prices because the effort he's making to write these reviews his time is more deserving of. Am I saying that correctly? His time is more valuable than what he's currently charging. Now, just to let you guys know, when you pay for a review through IndieEye, we don't keep that money. That goes to the reviewer. Mm-hmm. So you are paying that individual for his time.
And for his opinion.
So don't
be all pissy.
Well, I don't mind people being pissy. Just understand how to take a bad review.
Yep.
Or just feedback that...
you can work on.
Feedback that you find negative. And more of this is explained in the bad review special.
I don't want to harp on it a lot, but...
But in the end, getting negative reviews is, as Calvin T. Shepard said beautifully, all part of the job. And make sure that you could take some time to process that insulting feeling. Mm-hmm. And I get it.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're all creative.
But if that review is also telling you, giving you suggestions or telling you what they bumped against, let's pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean you have to go and make all these changes, or if you don't have to agree with a bad review. But if there's something there, if a viewer's telling you something,
consider it
at least. So check that out. Again, follow us on Instagram for news updates, because we have an announcement we're going to make about a new service that's related to that'll be available beginning October.
Yep.
So I want to give everyone a heads up on that. Dre, what are your final thoughts here, Dre?
Well, I was going to say on Instagram, we also promote, and share links for, the different people that submit and share their Instagrams. And it's the networking opportunity that this community has with not being able to be in physical places together. We are an online review festival. This is how we network with you and how you network with us and other people. These are your peers. So, yeah.
Which reminds me to remind you all, when you're building your project page at Film Freeway, please add social media links, add anything related to your film that we can use to
share it with people.
When we create the winners page at the end of the month, we prefer to have links where people can come find you or follow your film or
follow you. Just maybe they like you.
Know what you're doing. Yeah. So, I mean, there was, and I'll say for Zachary Valentine, who submitted Knock and won for our best horror.
It was a big favorite, by the way, sir.
The image you provided is not the proper poster sizing, which, you don't really think about is important, but for festivals, it is. If you want people to take your stuff seriously, give them what they expect to see. A proper sized movie poster, so that, it'll fit better on our page. and specifically for Zach, but also for other people who failed to do this, there is no social media. I had to, do my own homework to get Zach's Instagram, and then find out that Knock was on YouTube, which I did not know when I saw it. So
yeah, why wouldn't you?
Let us know. Link that bad boy. Yeah. So now maybe I missed it. I can't recall if he linked it to Film Freeway, as if that's how I watched it on Film Freeway, or if it was uploaded directly to Film Freeway. I don't remember. But have these links in your project page so that we could see it. Have stills from your film also included there. Yep. Those are things that are super, super helpful. So, all right, we're done. We're out. I'm going to do some minimal editing on this. You have to get the website ready, and we'll get this out to everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening to IndieEye Film Awards.
For submitting.
I really appreciate even the folks that I may have disagreeable email exchanges with, which you can hear on the Bad Review special. I love these people.
Yeah.
You're out there making indie films.
Hustling. Let's go.
You have passion for it. I want to see you succeed. So great job. All right, we're out of here. Have a great rest of the month.
Bye.
If you'd like your project discussed on the podcast, go to IndieEyeFilmAwards.com and submit to our open monthly competition. Find us on Instagram and YouTube, IndieEye Film Awards. Thanks for listening to this episode of IndieEye.